All right, let's introduce to you Chapter 5. So the economic question, it's very similar to the demand one, is how to determine what to sell versus um, what to buy before. How much of it to sell and at what price by looking at supply of products. Looking at supply this time. And we create a demand schedule. This time we're going to create a supply schedule. That's what we're going to focus on today. We're also going to focus on the other ones, explain the difference between a change in supply and a change in quantity of supply. Again, there's a difference, right? And we're going to talk about the 6 factors of supply, and then we're going to identify 4 questions to ask when we're talking about elasticity of supply. And of course, there's always some economic terms. So, supply, what is the definition? Well, it's the desire and ability to produce and sell a product. And as you can see, um, these are knot boards, and this is um, a stand for candles. And I can do both. This is actually a picture I made. Um, so do I have, so I made this. Do I have supply, desire, and ability? The answer is yes. If you pay me enough, I have the ability and I have the desire. Same thing in knot boards. If you pay me enough, I will have the desire and I have the ability to do this. However, I have the desire to make t-shirts and to clothe all the tribal people of the world, but I don't have supply. I don't have the ability to make that many t-shirts, let alone a t-shirt. I also have the desire, you know, to make and sell Porsches, but again, I don't have supply because I can't make a Porsche. It's pretty tough. Now, I'm going to want you to create your own examples for a second. The album partner, 2 examples of something that is an example of supply, and then 1 example that is not an example of supply. So I'll let the teacher pause the video, and you guys can go ahead and talk about that for a second. All right, so now moving on. When we'll talk about the law of supply, because you need to know the law of supply when you create your supply schedule a little bit. The law says when price decreases, quantity supply decreases. When price increases, quantity supply increases. Now let's look at that definition again, because that might be a little confusing. When price decreases, quantity supply decreases. And when price increases, quantity supply increases. Now, this might seem confusing because we just talked about kind of being the opposite. You have to remember, we're talking about producers here, not consumers. Think about producers. So let's think this through for a second. When price is going up, a producer, let's say, is making t-shirts. If the price of a t-shirt is $1 million, it just went up from like $1 to $1 million. Well, what are the producers going to want to do? They're going to want to up their quantity supply. They're going to up the amount they make. And so as price goes up, quantity supply goes up. And of course, as price goes down, let's say it's like a cent for a t-shirt. Well, the suppliers are probably going to, not make as many t-shirts, if any at all. And so when price goes down, quantity supply goes down. And so this is the law of supply. And so with a little activity in a second you guys are going to do, you're going to create a supply schedule and a supply curve for a specific product. So we're going to look at, you might want to look on page 132 and 134 for some examples of supply curves. And you'll want to look at my examples here. So first, a supply curve is not a demand curve. This is a demand curve, and it follows the law of demand. But this time, we're going to make a supply curve, which follows the law of supply. So here's my example. My knot boards, at $5, I'm not making any knot boards for you. Sorry, at $10, you might convince me I might make one. At $50, I'll make 2. At 20, I'll make 4. And at 30, I'll make 10. I'll quit my job and I'll be a full-time knot board maker. So that's an example. The law of supply is price goes up, quantity supply goes up, right? Now, my other example would be, that should say candle holders. Oops. But yeah, as price goes up, my quantity supplied would go up. Now, a non-example, as price goes up, quantity supplied is not going up. This would be a non-example, right? Pretty easy. Same thing with my candle holders. Again, as price goes up, quantity supplied should be going up. This would be a non-example. So this is an example again of a supply curve, a supply schedule. As price goes up, quantity supplied goes up. No way of thinking about it. As price goes up, the quantity for each point is going up, right? This is a supply curve, and this is a supply schedule. And you're going to create both today in just a second. So this is the supply of tomatoes. So let me think for a second. Is this an example or a non-example? Is it following the law of supply? As price goes up, so as price goes up, is quantity supplied going up? Nope, it's going down. So this is actually demand for pizzas. So that's a non-example. This would be quantity of not boards on the horizontal price here. As price goes up, quantity supplied is going up as well. Therefore, this is supply of non-boards. That would be an example. This would be a non-example. Again, as price goes up, quantity supplied is going down. And this is an example of a demand curve for tickets. Tickets for maybe a football game or something. So now you're going to create your own supply schedule and supply curve. You've got my examples and the examples in the book to help you. And again, remember, do not create a demand curve when you create this. We're looking for a supply curve. You're all doing this individually. So just to make sure you know in the future the difference between a demand curve and a supply curve, here's a way to remember. Demand curves are going down and to the right. If you kind of read it from left to right, it's going down, right? That's a demand curve. A supply curve has got the up in it. And if we read from left to right, it's going up, right? And so remember, this is what you're trying to focus on today with your activity.